Productive Pastor 62 Morning Routines. Welcome back to Productive Pastor, friends. Hope your week is going well. Hope you're heading into the weekend if you're listening to this on release day on Thursday. I just hope things are going well for you. I've been busy this week. I've been wrapping up a couple things. Started batching the podcast. That's been interesting. Prepping and recording and just getting several of these episodes going. I'm on vacation next week, so that's making sure we have that episode coming out. It's going to be a banger. It's about 3 truths that you don't want your schedule to be telling you. But we're talking about morning routines today, something that I love. And it's a kind of a conversation that comes up around the productivity community in a lot of ways. We'll get to that more in a second. What I want you to let you know about right now is I am hot on the trails of wrapping up the Trello course. This is going to be fun. We're going to come together. We're going to build multiple Trello boards together while we're learning how to use Trello for personal ministry productivity. I'm building this in real time, trying to get this out. One of my goals before I leave for vacation this week is to film all of the videos for that course. I've been trying to get this out because I love talking about Trello, and some of you folks are asking questions about Trello or just about productivity, and my answer is always, hey, just check out Trello. So the Trello course is coming out soon. Also, if you've not gotten Becoming Productive, it's an insane value. The link to that is in the show notes, revchadbrooks.com/PPP/062. But this is the first course I came out with, goes along with season 1 of the podcast. And it's an A to Z about developing a personal approach to productivity. It's like the baseline for so many things. So you can go and you can grab that. But let's get into this conversation about morning routines. Now, interestingly enough, routines are actually how I got into the whole productivity conversation, fascination years ago. Was when I started realizing that people I looked up to a lot, and they were all artists. I feel like, people that are productive are either artistic or they're either engineers. They're one or the other. And I kept reading about these routines and the daily routines of these writers and these folks I thought were just pretty cool, and began understanding there are things that we can do to pull levers that will get a specific outcome into our life and, what we are hoping or what we are wanting to do. There's repeatable patterns, that sort of thing. Routines it seems like people will talk about morning routines being some sort of a supercharger system to a new reality. And, maybe not. My own, idea of routines has changed significantly in the last 10 years. I used to be like, let's cram, boom, 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 this. You have to do every one of these single things or you're not going to get this. I was much more stoic in my approach to morning routines years ago than I am now. It used to always be like hardcore, hey, you've got to get up early, 5:30 a.m. club, the whole 9 yards. And, I'm just not there anymore. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's just not Chad right now, and I feel like I'm actually getting more done than I used to, and I'm getting it done in a healthier way, which I will absolutely appreciate. But that's the thing, your routines serve you, not you serve your routines. And so if your routine is becoming a burden, then it's probably not serving its purpose of actually trying to get you something. Now, there's a difference between discipline and routines. Sometimes we have to be disciplined about this, or we might have points of discipline inside of our routines, but it's going to be different because your productivity is your productivity. Don't get distracted with what somebody else does. My wife has a pretty consistent morning routine that is very different from mine. She gets up significantly earlier than I do, and, she exercises like crazy every single day, and for her, it's not really a point of discipline. It's just the thing that she does to be the most herself, and she'll tell you, like, she's one of those people who exercises on vacation, if you can believe that or not, because she says, I just feel better. I feel more like myself if I do these sort of thing first thing. Now, for me, my morning routine does not include any exercise whatsoever at all. My day does, and my week does especially. But remember, your productivity is your productivity. Don't get distracted with what somebody else does to be the most honest, truest version of themselves. So that's it. So we're going to talk about morning routines really in a couple different ways. One of them is going to be kind of like a waking routine, and the other one's going to be a working routine. So the waking routine piece. So here's the thing. Number one, not every day is the same. Okay, think about that. I struggled now with some sort of a blanket, multiple part morning routine that happens every single day. Think about what you're doing that day. What you're doing that day will probably have something to say a lot more about what you're filling your routine with, but then also understand that there are certain things that you prioritize just no matter what, absolutely what. So for me, one of the things I've learned about myself in the last couple of years is I began prioritizing sleep. Sleep is probably my number one priority right now. I have learned I am healthier, both mentally and physically, when I get, 7-8 hours of sleep. I love that. I used to be a 5-hour person, and I think that probably contributed to me almost dying of a stroke when I was 39. But I've learned that that's my number one priority is I want to get that 7-8 hours of sleep. Now, there's two ways you can do that. You can either go to bed early, or you can wake up late. Like, it's just, I think, getting 7-8 hours sounds like a very, very difficult thing. And I also, for me, like, if that's my priority, getting that time of sleep, that is my number one biggest priority. I'm also taking a medicine right now that really jacks with my ability to sleep. And so one of the things I gave myself permission for several months back was, Chad, you don't have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning anymore. I like that, having that time for my routine. And I had a very, very nice, because I don't have kids. I know everybody's productivity is their own productivity. I don't have kids. That changes my dynamic. And so I had this really, really kind of crazy morning routine that was good. But it took, it took some time to accomplish. And I realized, hey, if my number one priority is sleep, and I want to make sure I can get 7 to 8 hours, and I'm struggling to get to sleep at times, that means if I need to give myself permission to get out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is late for me, then that's okay, Chad, because that's prioritizing the sleep piece. A year and a half ago, when I was able to get to bed at 9 o'clock at night, I was falling asleep by 9:30. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And so my 5:30 time was not a big time. Well, right now, when, it's midnight, 12:30, I'm giving myself permission to get my 8 hours. And if I don't have something happening in the morning that absolutely means I am up and I am rolling, I'm just giving myself permission to get the sleep that you need. That's my number one essential. So you think about those, what are these bare essentials that you need? Sleep is mine, and I'm making my decisions for the rest of my morning routine based off of that sleep. And so the next thing is I have my bare essentials, and then let's call them focused additions. So for me, I prioritize, waking up, and I have learned I don't go to anything else. I don't sleep with my phone in my room. I wake up, I make my cup of coffee, and I sit down to do the morning office. I have learned if I go ahead and give that every single day, that priority space, that I am setting the tone for what I want to do. That is my bare essential. And here's the thing. On crazy days, if things are wild or if I sleep in late or whatever, my only thing I will do no matter what every single day is that morning office. And I can do that. I can get it done in about 20 minutes. I don't like to, but I can. I like to have about 45 minutes for the morning office. But I do that. And then that's kind of my bare essential. So I give myself space to sleep that I know is good for me. And then I do the morning office, and those are my essentials. That's my essential morning routine almost every single day, no matter what. I will do that on vacation. But the next thing is I call these the focused additions. All right? Because really the question when you're developing any sort of a morning routine or any sort of routine period, it needs to be, hey, what is going to launch me off well? And so if you think about this, part of your morning routine is also, what is a couple of things that you need to do to simply just set up your mind space for what you're going to be doing the first thing that day. If I'm going to be doing a lot of sermon writing, or a lot of creating, that sort of a thing. I'm going to take the time to read after my daily office is done. And I'm going to read the kind of things that makes my mind begin to work. And I'm going to give myself permission to take some notes on things, that sort of stuff. Because if I'm stepping into work and I need to be creative, I want to be activating that part of my mind first. So like I said, a sermon day is very, very different from, a meeting day or a travel day or an administration day, that sort of a thing. On administration day, I don't like administration, and we all kind of define administration differently, but I don't like administration. So what I will do on mornings like that as part of my morning routine is I will do something that I find incredibly joyful. That's going to be fun, because if I can kind of preload my day being happy before I sit down to do something that I really don't look forward to, that's going to be better for me in the long run. And so it might be, hey, I'm going to go out and grab a quick cup of coffee real quick on the way, or I'm going to go choose to do my administration somewhere different, but that sort of thing. So I kind of try to preload with joy. If it's a meeting day, and I normally don't take meetings or calls first thing in the morning, but sometimes I do. And what I do on those days is I make sure I read something a little bit lighthearted, and then I go take a walk. Okay, I let that part of my body just this activate thing. And so think about, what are your bare essentials to your morning routine? But then also, what are the focused additions? What are those things that you can kind of add into your morning routine there a little bit to make sure that you're in the healthiest mind space you need to be in for that day? Also, I think now a couple folks you can follow that I think are interesting. For those of you with kids are saying, Chad, this still sounds just really kind of outrageous. There's a guy on YouTube. His name is Matt Ragland. I'll link to his channel in the show notes. But Matt has had some really interesting thoughts about how he's incorporated his kids into his morning routine. And it changes through the week and changes on certain days and that sort of stuff. And so remember, your routine serves you, not you serve your routine. So there's your morning routine piece. The second thing is, let's talk about how our working routine, and this is going to be really short, but how we begin to work. Because I think that matters too. Because whether you work from a church office primarily, or whether you work from home a lot first thing in the morning, or whether you go to a coffee shop or a cafe first thing in the morning, whatever you do like that, the things that you do right when you step into the space are going to set the tone for where your mind is at. So, a couple of things. This isn't a big deal for me, at least right now. It might change in a couple of months as my role changes. But I don't check email first thing. I don't do that. When I sit down to work, I already know the most important thing I need to be working on that morning, and I go straight into that. So I stay away from email. I stay away from social. I get myself focused on what I need to be doing, the most important thing that day, because generally I'm going to block off an hour, maybe an hour and a half for that, and defend that opening slot. That's the biggest thing. We've had this conversation on Productive Pastor Community on Facebook lately about how interruptions are the biggest just thing that can destroy ministry productivity. And it's a real thing, but I'll tell you what, if you can't shut your door, if you can't go somewhere else to do those things so you're not interrupted, helping folks understand the true nature of interruptions, but then also making yourself like super, super available in those times where you don't need to be incredibly focused. And so, think through, what does it take for me to begin working well this morning? I've coached somebody before that struggles because they would come into the office, they'd make a cup of coffee, they would make the rounds and see everybody in the office, and the next thing you know, they don't even get into their office until an hour into the workday. And friends, that was a good bump for their energy, but what we also talked about was they realized that they were also interrupting people who were trying to focus and get their day going as well. And so, think about the reason that you might be doing something, or if there's a struggle point you have, how have you introduced that as an acceptable thing into your schedule simply because of lack of energy awareness on some other part. And so that beginning rhythm, that part of your morning routine of how you begin working, think about that strategically as well, and think about the things that you won't do and think about the things that you will do as you begin, both your morning but also your work. So this is a little quicker episode this week, quick conversation on morning routines. Hopefully I'm just starting to reframe this away from you, because I know sometimes this has been a contentious subject around Productive Pastor, and I've not helped that out, especially in my younger, more all aboard the hustle bus days. But think about this. Just think about your morning as a time for you to be intentional and focused about being the best version of who you are, and that you get the chance to exercise agency. You get the chance to say, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to be focusing on, and I'm doing these things so that I will be able to do this later on. So, hit me back on the socials at Rev Chad Brooks on Twitter. Come hang out Productive Pastor Community on Facebook, private community of pastoral leaders. There's around 1,000 of us there right now. It's the Productivity Party. Would love to see you there. And I'll be back in the next episode.